storm system has already cut a frozen path across central Canada. The temperature in some places plunging below -20.
The Legacy Project. You know, it's always been something that's occupied a space in the back of my mind, and I've been worrying about it for the past 4 years because, knowing myself, I don't really have talents that are necessarily applicable to this project. For example, I know a lot of people produce art pieces for this, but you'll see in a couple seconds, I'm not really good at art. Even sports, some people choose to highlight their athletic careers at O'Connor, but I don't really participate in sports anymore. And you know, just looking at the OCS athletics page, you can see a lot of good highlights. And finally, I know some people choose to produce either a song or maybe play an instrument for their Legacy project, and well, I don't really know what to sing, and I don't even know what to play an instrument. Because I'm not really versed in those kinds of areas of talent, I found myself really struggling to establish a really good foundation for this project. At one point during my planning, out of desperation, I thought of doing my Legacy project in the style of, you know, those question and answer type videos, which I'm pretty sure all of you guys are familiar with. And I would go through the routine of asking a selection of my friends, you know, questions like, what do you think is the most important aspect about O'Connor? And for example, my friend Peter would probably say,
The important part about O'Connor is the sense of community you get. There are different communities like sports teams, clubs, and AP classes.
And I can even go back to the basics and ask the question, what was your toughest challenge at O'Connor? And my friend Daryl will probably give an intentionally complicated answer of,
toughest challenge for me being a student at Center O'Connor was taking grade 11 Native Studies with Clarkin. He allowed me to reach a potential that I wouldn't have otherwise.
I already know that this type of format isn't really representative of the legacy that I want to leave at O'Connor, and moreover, I don't really think it's representative of me as a person. Just for some food for thought, if any point at all you related to the position I was in when I was planning this whole project, if you inevitably tackle this project in the future, I think that you should produce a legacy project that's representative of yourselves. I think it's really important not to follow what everyone else is doing just because it's maybe more easier or convenient for yourself. Maybe at this point right now, you might be asking yourself, what's the whole point and purpose of this video? And well, the best way I can describe it is it's a collection of thoughts and advice pertaining to the legacy project and student life at O'Connor. But well, that doesn't really roll off the tongue really well compared to just the legacy project.
Someone tell me how I got here, from the city to this frontier. All the noises joined to make harmony.
So for this section, I want to talk about a student's relationship between work and their social lives. Because of the amount of work that we get, or perhaps the obligations that we have to fulfill in our extracurriculars, I think that we always have to make a sacrifice in one of these two areas. It leads me on to my next point, and I found that, ironically, the hardest part of school isn't actually going to school itself. It's actually the amount of work that you have to do outside of school. And over the years, I've been consciously aware of the amount of work I've been doing, and it always starts with this routine. And you know, typically it always begins by me getting some sort of drink and putting on my headphones so that I can drown the world out. year, I found that after a long night of doing work and packing everything up for the next day, I always question if all this work that I'm doing is worth it. We're guided by this belief that if we do good in school, we'll become successful. And while I don't necessarily disagree with that, I think there's a price to pay in many forms. And because of all the stress, I often go to bed on these nights wanting to relive my past. A time when, for many of us, when our lives were much more simpler, much more carefree, and in some cases even happier than the lives that we are currently living right now. It's funny because as fast as I recollect all these memories from my childhood, they're always interrupted by my morning alarm.
She and Simon lived happily ever after.
If you've ever watched films that are based in high schools, I'm sure you're familiar with how these films tend to romanticize the prom experience.
At prom.
As a person who considers themselves an introvert, I wouldn't normally want to go to these types of events because there's so many things that can be considered an introvert's nightmare. There's maybe sitting with people that you're not necessarily familiar with. And there's the good old dancing. I consider prom a manifestation of what it means to be a teenager, and these are experiences that become increasingly rare as we mature. So to close on my legacy project, I wanted to comment on high school as a whole. It's my belief that regardless of how you feel about high school, when you graduate, there's going to be a point in time when you realize that you actually miss it. Often when we're in these moments, we don't realize how much happiness we have. And it's my belief that life can be boiled down to the responsibilities that we must fulfill. But I think to achieve happiness, we should strive to find responsibilities that we want to go out in the world and pursue, rather than fulfill responsibilities that we're told to do. And I think that high school does a really good job to help you determine the responsibilities that you want to have in the future, especially with your career. Hopefully you guys took away something valuable from my film. And to close up my legacy project, I want to use a clip from a classic movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yep. I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.